Okay, next video, grip. How to hold the sword using your funky hand things. Part 1. The dominant hand, or the top hand. I am right-handed, so therefore my right hand is my top hand. Let's see, what did I write for this? Your dominant hand is the one that stays close to the crossguard. This is the guiding hand. This is the hand that decides which direction the sword travels in, where the point goes, where the edges are aligned, and where the pressure goes. This hand also receives. When your sword makes contact with another sword, the dominant hand listens. It feels. We call this fühlen. And it tells you all of your opponent's secrets. That said, it's also a dirty, rotten snitch, and it rats you out to your opponent, because your opponent is doing the very same thing that you're doing with your hands. And the answer here is to be better at fühlen, which is a skill that is an ongoing process. Now, the non-dominant, the bottom hand, this hand is the support. It is the power that drives cuts and thrusts, and it maneuvers the sword when the top hand alone cannot do so. This hand guides, this hand powers. But the truth is they both work together to do both of these things, and that is not to say that it is strictly a push-pull on the sword to make a cut happen. We are going to go over cutting extensively, where this will all hopefully make quite a bit more sense. If it doesn't make more sense, then I haven't done my job, and I need to get beat up or something like that. And I digress. Positioning of the right hand. To begin, the sword should pass through the valley that exists between the thumb muscle and the bone on the heel of the palm. I don't remember what this bone is called. I should find out what that bone is called, because it's really bugging me now. Right, the grip passes through that little valley. Shouldn't be like this. Shouldn't be like this. Right there, right in the middle. Feels kind of snug there. And the grip should be a handshake grip. Hey, hi, how you doing? My name's Dan. Oh, good to meet you, Mr. Sword. A couple notes about this is that, what do we got here? Yes, in a way that all fingers can grasp the sword gently. You notice that if I go into this sort of hammer grip here, well, then I've got some space there that I can't really grab with, and it's like I really got to put a lot of tension in to hold this. If I let that elongate a little bit, however, then everything just sort of stays here where it wants to be. One little note with the thumb. I like to keep the thumb on this part of the crossguard. It helps with edge alignment, helps with indexing a little bit, as well as transitioning into other hand positions, which we will see more of later. As far as tension goes, it should feel like you're holding a small fuzzy animal or a cheeseburger or something else that you don't want to drop, because it would make you very sad if you dropped it. It would make me very sad if I dropped my sword. But you also don't want to crush to death. If you squeeze too tightly, all of your actions become slow because all of your muscles are working against each other. All of your actions become slow, they become predictable, you can see them a mile away, and you also can't feel anything. All of this good stuff that we were talking about with feeling, nothing, none of it. It's like having TV static in your sword. You can't feel anything. So we keep a grip that's only as tight as it needs to be. When we're moving around, it can stay fairly loose. At times, barely even holding on to it. Be able to move around with almost without even closing your hands around the sword. Just thinking, grip. My cat moved my notes. So, what are you doing? Grip is very much a matter of personal preference. Damn it, Loki. Yes, my cat's name is Loki. It's an appropriate name. It's a little troublemaker. Grip is very much a matter of personal preference. These few key points that I want to really make sure I expound on you is this one bit here and this bit here. The thumb there and this kind of corner of the grip going here. Other than that, however your hands are built, however your hands are proportioned, that is going to give you the answers for your own personal grip. Now the bottom hand has very much the same grip as the top. Still a handshake grip. Still using the bottom fingers for fine control of the sword. Position of the thumb here is very much a matter of preference. Some people, some people want you to have your hands kind of jammed up next to each other. It's good. You certainly cut with a lot of power that way. I just think it's uncomfortable, so I don't do it. I keep a little bit of space. But as far as this thumb goes, you can have it more or less the same position as the other one. There is evidence in the sources of it kind of being on the back of the sword while fencing. Be aware that does carry a slightly higher risk of injury. Just because that's a position for the thumb to be in that makes for a slightly higher risk of injury. But know that there is precedent for it. It's in the sources. If you like having your thumb back there, go for it. Otherwise, same handshake grip as before. Now, wrists. Just as we need our knees and toes to be pointing in the same direction, our wrists need to remain straight. Yes, at each and every point that you are gripping the sword, your wrist should remain straight. Force flows freely, say that 5 times fast, through straight wrists, and poorly through bent ones. At best, bent or so-called broken wrists transfer force ineffectively. Exercise weakness in broken wrists. Now I can do this, you know what, I'm going to use this with my handy staff. Again, my spear, you know. Now if I take my fist, and I'm gonna make a fist, and I'm gonna keep my wrist straight, and I'm gonna press on this. This is uncomfortable. I'm gonna turn it so that my knuckles are between my knuckles are right in there, and you see that I can sort of bend the spear by doing that. Now I'm going to approach it same way with a bent wrist, like this, and nope. Bent the other way, nope. Bent this way, definitely not. Bent that other way, no, not happening. Force transfers poorly through bent wrists. And if you were doing this with a partner, you can have your fists together. The person whose wrist is straight is not going to move You will not be able to move the person whose wrist is straight if your wrist is bent. So, stabilizing the wrists. We're going to get into what helps the wrist stay straight. And your forearm is a couple of sticks surrounded by strings, and all of the strings are pulling on things at the same time, but sometimes the tension is a little higher on one side than the other. Right? And that's how all of this works. All of the strings are pulling at different rates and allowing all of this to happen. So what happens if we want none of that to happen? Well, when you throw a punch and you connect, then you need to have a fist. It needs to be a good strong fist with lots of tension in all of these. And we can see how different parts of the forearm stabilize different parts of the wrist, like this. If I take my hand here and I just squeeze these two fingers, right? I'm not putting any tension in the bottom two fingers, just the top two and the thumb. And I go to bend my wrist like this. I can hold a pretty solid position. I'm actually kind of cranking down on my wrist there. Nice and stable this way. The other way, however, I've still got all the tension here that's keeping me stable this way. Nope. Really easy to move in that direction. Now if I take the other fingers, if I take these bottom two fingers and I give them tension, then all of a sudden this plane becomes difficult to move. But the other one, despite all that tension, is still quite easy to move. So therefore, if the wrist itself is not going to move at all, then all of these muscles need to be working together. But this shows what keeps the wrist from bending this way. And how does this apply to swords? This applies to swords like so. Guarantee you, everybody in this class is going to find themselves in this position every so often. This is strong, this is not. This keeps your wrist safe. This puts you at significant risk of injury. This is a position we can cut or thrust strongly from. This is not. And how we get there is with tension in these bottom fingers. If I keep tension in these fingers, I'm heaving up on my windowsill with the sword, and my wrists are remaining straight by virtue of tension in these fingers. If I lose that tension, then my wrist structure breaks immediately. Okay, there's a lot getting covered here, and I apologize for making these videos so long. I guess there really is quite a bit that I'm trying to get through. But next one, we're going to get to shoulders. Yet another important point.